Hello everyone, welcome to the live stream. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. What you just heard was Kura Kura by Ado, which was the opening to the second season of Spy Family, and the third opening overall, I think. Thank you, welcome to the stream. El Paisa, Koji, Nick Red, from wherever you are, thank you very much for joining me tonight, whether it's morning or evening, wherever you are. So, I decided to try something a little bit different today. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but if this goes well, there is a chance that maybe I will do this more regularly, because I think it's, from last stream, I had lots of fun sort of talking with you guys besides playing, connecting with you, learning about what you think about my arrangements, what kind of music you like, and just discussing random topics in general. So maybe if we can get a more regular schedule going, then we will also attract more people to come watch more regularly, and then we can have more fun together. So, what's different today? As you can see, I have a slightly jank setup right now. The video stream here is vertical compared to what it normally is, and that is by design, because today, as the title suggests, instead of performing, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a sneak peek into my arranging process. So I've been asked questions about this before in the past, like, how do you arrange, how do you get better at arranging, things like that. We've talked about arranging on stream in general, but I've never actually done it on stream. So yeah, today's just going to be a little bit of an experimentation, a little bit of a test to see how this goes on stream, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun. So I'm just going to do my thing, and I'll try and sort of, it's a little bit of pressure actually to do this with an audience watching, obviously. But I'm going to, as I go, sort of talk a little bit more out loud about the things that I'm doing. And then obviously, if you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to put them in chat. And if you want to talk about anything else, I'm always reading chat as well. So just put your messages there and I'll be sure to look at them. So, what song are we arranging today? It just says next piano cover in the title. Well, as I'm sure you can tell by the thumbnail itself, it is Ado's New Genesis. So what was my thinking behind picking this song to arrange? So as you might have seen in my YouTube post, I recently had the privilege of seeing Ado live here in Toronto, where I am on the Hibana tour, and I just felt really moved by that experience, because just her as a singer, just hearing her story about how she started from singing covers in her closet to where she is now is really inspiring. And it's obviously she's the 1% that made it, so there's some survivorship bias, but it was just really cool to see that, and it was a really moving story, and it's something that motivates me to become a better artist every single day as well. And so with that, I decided, screw it. Her voice was phenomenal, obviously. Hearing that live was insane. So after listening to that, I was like, screw it, I need to do another Ado song. These are so good. And so I picked the song that she did as her, spoiler alert, if you're going to see one of her future shows, her very, very last song, which she did as an encore, which is New Genesis, which is probably, I want to say, one of the turning points of her career. It was so symbolic, it's like a new world sort of type thing. And even though I'm not a One Piece fan, I don't know, hearing that live was just, the whole thing was amazing, but hearing that song live at the very end was very, very inspiring. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into this new screen we have here on my computer. So, the music software that I do all of my arranging in is MuseScore. It is free, completely 100% free and open source, which is baffling because it's actually better than the paid competitors, in my opinion. I have used Sibelius in school before, and I've also tried a little bit of Dorico, and honestly, I find MuseScore, especially MuseScore 4, since the big updates, to be a far superior experience compared to all of them. So that's what I use, and you're going to get a little sneak peek insight into what my draft scores look like at their very early stages, at the stage where I'm still sort of figuring things out, not having fully formed set concrete ideas yet, and how this will slowly progress into something that I turn into a video. So right now you can see that I have started some already a little bit. I've arranged sort of the first verse and pre-chorus section up until the very to the start of the chorus, the first chorus. And this is by no means the finished arrangement in terms of what I will actually play in these sections. Instead, what I usually tend to do as the first stage of my arrangement is I write some very basic ideas down. I get the big ideas of like what I want each section to sound like in terms of sort of like mood and vibe. And then it's only when I get onto the keyboard itself and start playing some of the sections that I start forming new ideas that I will eventually put into, turn into the final arrangement, which goes in the video. So you can see right now that the beginning section, I've written absolutely nothing at the moment. It's just the melody, right? It's just because we can actually listen to how the song starts right now. I'm obviously not going to show the video. I will get copyright claimed, and I won't be able to earn any revenue from this stream by playing the song, but that's okay. I think for the sake of this video, it's fine. So yeah, as if you haven't heard it before, the beginning of the song sounds like this. Yeah, and then it goes into the first main arrangement. So you can hear sort of immediately from that introduction that it was very, very, very free-flowing. It's like, which is what I wrote here in the tempo marking, freely. And even this, I didn't even write metronome marking because honestly it's kind of useless at this point. And I've just written down the basic melody that she sings here, which is also the first line, the tagline of the chorus, sort of like that. And the reason I haven't written anything here is because in the end, I plan on improvising this section quite a bit to sort of make it sound as free-flowing as possible. You can see how there's like not really a set tempo at this stage, at the beginning of the song here. So I really want to emulate that feeling. So the first thing I might consider playing around with in the arrangement is at the very end here of this intro section on the last high note. So I can already hear there's some piano chord here going like, and we can listen to it again. That sort of line, if we listen to it very carefully. And then as this grows, there's this reverse cymbal hit that just creates this feeling of like ever growing. And to emulate that on piano, the easiest way is probably sort of arpeggios. So you can listen here that the bass chord is like an E minor 7, maybe E minor 9. Like if we just like keep stacking these thirds up and up, it basically sounds right. So for example, as an experimentation stage, I might just play along with the song and see what I think sounds good. So for example, something like that. My idea when I first heard this part is also to create some sort of big sweeping statement here before we get into the main percussive beat. So let's go back and as well listen to some of the beginning chords. So so as for how I do these, I'm very privileged. I speak from a very privileged position to be someone with perfect pitch. So I am able to I basically just play it over and over again until I can hear what the notes are. So for example, for this beginning chord, I can immediately hear it's like a C, it's very open sort of C major 9 chord. Like I think those are the notes, C, G, A, D. Something like that. So I definitely want to keep that open atmosphere here at the beginning of the song. So we will go ahead and pop this staff into treble clef. And I think it's a whole note, so we'll just see what the chord is. I think it's, I'm gonna go into input by duration here. I think it's like this. Yeah, because that will create the, oops, I need to remember to get out of there. So I might actually not include anything else. Like I'm tempted, like I could support it below like this. But I almost like it sounding emptier. Let's go back and take a look at how this sounds again. Yeah, I almost like, so the two options I could go with here is have a fuller chord like this, or I could just have the top line. And I honestly like how the more open chord sounds. I think it will create a bigger dynamic contrast later. So I'm gonna go with that, and that note is held for 2 bars, so we'll just tie it over. And let's listen to the next chord. So that one is, that one's has, I think I hear B minor, sort of. It sounds like this. We have a pretty dissonant interval here, but I think I will go with that. Oh, I have inputted all the notes into MuseScore by accident. I didn't realize I still had it selected. Let's undo everything there. Oh, this section as well. Let's turn it back into bass clef because we definitely want it to be bass clef there. Oops. I need to put it here. There we go. Yep, so for this note, I definitely want it to be this. And I will also add a G at the top. So I'm going to be lazy right now because I'm not doing this for engraving purposes, and I will just know that I intend to play that with the right hand. But obviously, when I release the final score, I add markings to show when a different hand should play that. Yep, and then that one also holds for the entirety of those 2 bars. So we just have, oops, I did it again. You remember deselect, deselect, there we go. And then here we hear the first sort of much lower note as it resolves to the E minor chord. Something like that, I think. Let's listen to the exact notes again. Sounds like that, I think. So here it's a little bit free. I don't really intend to play this. Most of my recordings are played to a metronome, but for this beginning section, I probably plan to expand it a little bit. So as for notating it, I can be pretty free with how I notate. Like the rhythm doesn't have to exactly match up because the tempo is like rubated a little bit, sort of improvised on the spot anyway. But the notes I do want to play are, let's just get this right. So let's test how that sounds from the resolving. So yeah, for now I will notate that with quavers, starting from here. So it's, oops. And that last one should be a long note, and we'll head back to bass clef here. So we don't need that one. And this should hold into the next bar, so we'll tie it over like so. And then this part I will probably leave for now. So because I plan on doing an improvised E minor section, so I'm not going to notate that set in stone now because I want to make more progress on the other sections, like the actual sections of the song. So I'll come back to this later. For now, I will just write a note for myself. E. Oh no. Sorry guys, I just realized I was actually muted for a very long time, so I'm not sure how long you guys didn't hear that. But, oh, I think it's because I pressed M. I have a hotkey for muting. Let me just get rid of that real quick because it is definitely something I do not want to click again. Anyways, okay. Applies. How much longer would this take you if I didn't have electric piano? So actually, a lot of the time when I do my first set of arranging, I sit at my desktop and I don't use the piano yet. I tend to find that I like, it's actually more efficient for me to get a lot of the initial scores down. So actually in terms of like, I can write, I assume you're talking about like the notating directly. I can notate pretty quickly with just the keyboard and mouse. Because if you learn enough of the keyboard shortcuts for the piece of software you're using, it's pretty fast. You don't need the keyboard. The only thing the keyboard helps you do is like you can play a note and then that will appear on the score. But like you can equivalently just press the keyboard shortcut on the keyboard and that will also add the note. I only really get to the piano when I'm in the experimentation stage, so when I've written most of this draft already, and I want to play some of the ideas to see how they sound, and things like that. When I'm just like notating the melody, sometimes I'll use the piano to help find the notes, but oftentimes I just sing in my head until I get it right sometimes. Do I know Chopin Ballade? Koji, are you still here? Maybe if you stick around for longer, I might play a little bit of one. I may or may not know one. If you stick around for longer, maybe I'll play one at the end, but I will get to it soon. Anyways, yeah, back to what I was saying here. I didn't know, you guys must have heard the audio, but not the actual, stream. So yeah, for this part, I've just sort of I'm playing the piano as a rhythmic instrument, as a percussion instrument, because in many ways the piano is a percussion instrument actually with the hammers. So here, this, I haven't practiced this yet obviously, but the rhythm of the toms you can hear is so that's the main rhythm you hear at the beginning, and for that I'm just using the open fifths of the key we're in, which is in E minor, and this is pretty common because it emulates the sound of the toms pretty accurately, as well. So here you can see I've added a little bit of a melodic flourish here to go into the low E notes, which is the one you hear at the intro section. This one. This one, here we go. Oh, the super long, low bass note. So that one definitely needs to be emphasized a lot. So that's what that is. Yep. So on and so on. And then finally we have the synth line here, which I won't go over in too much detail. That's just the like that. And then as for the accompaniment, I've written something currently a little bit cursed that I don't think I will end up keeping, but it's this. It's pretty cursed because that jump, it's definitely doable with enough practice, but I'm not sure if I want to keep it there long term. But the reason I do that is because that emulates the drum beat if we listen to this part again. When it comes to... So basically, this is a technique I use a lot, which is that I use... The higher chord hit is basically where the snare hit is on the drum beat. And the drum beat is the cha, the cha, the cha, the cha, the cha. And then, so then this is basically, this has the same effect on the piano as hitting the snare. So altogether, I'm not sure if I can play this right now with no practice perfectly, but it would be like... So I can't play the notes yet, clearly, because I'm still, obviously, haven't practiced at all, but that's the kind of effect. I will also need to be pretty careful my pedal usage there, because this left hand percussive effect sounds the best when dry, but the right hand needs to be legato linked, so I will need to practice doing these lines legato and probably do a lot of half pedal changes, but that's to be decided later in the future. And then for the melody, the verse section, again, nothing too much to comment on right now. I just have the melody notated, and then I have the same sort of percussive accompaniment throughout. And then here, as we get into the chorus, we have that signature guitar lick. So I'm going to skip over this now so we can finally get to arranging some new parts, which I know you guys have definitely been waiting for now, probably. So that's here. So this part. So this is the pre-chorus. That's the part, the guitar part you hear there. So I might actually end up playing that with both hands in octaves. I'm undecided yet. I think that would be pretty cool. Something like that. But that's to be decided. For now, I'll just leave that right there. Anyways, now we're on to arranging a new section, which is the chorus. So I will go over now what my process is for actually arranging a new section from start to finish. So it doesn't necessarily start this way all the time. It depends on sometimes if I have a particular idea for how the accompaniment or how I want to notate a certain section is in particular, I might go and do that idea first. But if I don't have any ideas as a baseline, I will always just notate the melody first. That might not necessarily be the best approach, but that's just the approach I will do. So again, with that, we just listen to the song a few times, and then we'll get the melody and rhythms in place. So, for example, we'll just start listening to it now. Oh, we'll go back a bit. So from there, actually I do know this already because this is basically the same as the opening line. So that would be, nope, it's quaver. beat. It starts on the first beat. This ties over. Oops. And then these are all quarter notes. So we'll listen to how that sounds. That sounds right to me. And then the next line. So that one I believe actually starts on the previous beat. Yeah, so that's actually the same part, except this is also played like so. So it's because it's anticipated. I will tie that over to the next bar because I think it's held for a bit longer. And then we can hear that that's on the beat, so that would be tied. Oops. Tied. So you can hear there's a lot of syncopation here, which is typical of J-pop music in this genre. I think this note is held for longer. Yep, this one's definitely held for the rest of the bar, so we'll fix that. And then there's a beat rest, and then it's the same figure again. Like so. Off. Oh, we have the small run there. So da and da da da, so you can hear it lands on the beat. Da one da da da, like so, which is like this, and then we'll tie that over to the next bar as well. So listen to how that sounds. So, and usually for notes, for sort of vocal inflections, or like vocal, I forgot what the term is called, but basically when it's like a run-on, it's like the same syllable, but it's like held over multiple notes. I like to add a slur right away, which helps me learn to phrase that like that is, because I know that that is the same note that is dragged down, and it's not like multiple different words. So quickly check that that sounds right. I actually think that could be held for longer, probably 2 beats. Let's see. 1, 2. Yep, I agree with that. And then here, you can hear that this is actually, very similar. So the best part of arranging pop songs like this is, of course, there's a lot of repetition. So we have the duplicate here. You can hear that this is mostly the same except for the last part of that verse, which we can listen to again. So that there is a 8th note rest, followed by and then da da, like so. Let's listen to that, make sure it sounds correct. Hold on, I've just realized I have put this in the wrong place. Because it should be da 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 da. There should be another one of these first. We'll tie this over. And then this bar should go here, like so. And then after that is an instrumental. Let's quickly check how long this last note is held for. Yeah, it's basically cut off immediately, so I'm not going to tie that over to the next bar. And then this section is an instrumental, so I'll mark that with the next letter. Always good to be organized as much as possible. Ho-Teng, welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy it here. Okay, so just like that, we have notated the entire melody of the chorus. Just like that. It was pretty easy because it's quite repetitive. Now we move on to harmony. So the first thing to do is to figure out the basic chord progression. Before we can do anything else, before we can develop our ideas, it's good to have a basic structure of the chord progressions in mind. So for that, depending on the vibe, sometimes I will write like basic whole note triads in, whole note chords in. So for example, if we go back and listen to what the first chord is, the beginning of the chorus. So I can hear that the first chord is like A minor, so I might just do that, for example. Or sometimes I will actually write the chord symbol in instead. So for example, we'll write like A minor, like that. It's the expression, because music will also help interpret that for me. So it sort of depends on like how complex the chords are in the song and like which method I feel like is more useful. So for this one, I'm probably going to stick with the chord symbols for now, and then the chord symbols will eventually be deleted once I come up with like the full accompaniment that I want to use for that version. So let's listen to what the chord progression is. So that's definitely a C. Oops. So we add chords by pressing Control K. That's definitely an E minor, but it might land on the offbeats. No, I don't think it does. So I'll go with that. This is the same as well. Hold on, I've pasted that a bit too early. It's there. And then for that last cutoff section, where you can hear all the instruments cut out and off, I write NC there, which is for no chord. So with that, I can already sort of, well, it's just the same 3 chords over and over again. So with that, I can already just play this just to get a basic idea of what this might sound like. So I'm not too, so here is where I will go back a little bit. Oops, sorry. Hold on, I need to make sure I keep this window here. Otherwise, you guys won't be able to see it properly. Let's make sure that's not messed up. Okay, it's good. Right, so something I do need to check is that C chord sounds a little bit off to me. It might be because of the E in the C triad. I have a feeling that that's not quite correct. Let's listen to that one more time. So yeah, we can definitely hear that this is very bass dominated. You can hear the sub bass sort of have that side chain effect, which I might end up emulating as much as I can. Yeah, it might be a C sus2 instead, actually, which would make sense given that the melody note is a C. So for those of you who don't know, instead of just the triad of A, C, E, C, E, G, actually the E might be useful. So we'll see. I'm undecided on that, and that's kind of why I don't notate, that's why I actually don't mind notating these chords super simply without like any extension so far. And that's because as a classical musician and not a jazz musician, I tend to, the sort of like the extra bits of harmony sort of come out more when I actually end up arranging the accompaniment figures themselves. And so that's why I don't feel like I need to capture the exact chord, like, you know, down to exactly like, oh, sharp 11, is it a 7, is it a sus4, like something like that, because I know that in the end I'm gonna play it out anyway. So I'm okay with leaving it there for now. Oops, don't want to rearrange that menu for you guys. I'll just quickly look at chat. Okay, no questions? Right, cool, let's keep going. So now we're ready to develop a little bit of the accompaniment. So accompaniment is where before I write anything down, this is where I really like to get out into the experimentation stage and just play a few things to see what I think sounds good. And then whatever I think sounds good is what I will actually notate. It's what I will actually, oops, the music score disappeared for a bit. Okay, is what I will actually write into the score itself. So for that, let's listen to it a few times. So a few things jump out at me after listening to that. So the one thing is that the same the drum beat where it's just boom cha on every beat is still persistent. So bar nothing else, I need to keep the pulse. This is actually one of the most important things that I've learned over my time as arranging, is that no matter what, if you lose the sense of rhythm, the sense of pulse, it doesn't matter what ideas in your arrangement you add, it's completely toast. It doesn't matter how many cool ideas, cool embellishments, cool counter melodies you have. If you lose that basic sense of pulse, your arrangement doesn't work anymore. So that's why that sort of bum, 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 that I notated throughout. I need some way of making sure that that's still intact. So that's number one. The second thing is that big sort of sub bass sidechain effect, which could like maybe be emulated in the bass line here. That sort of whoop, whoop, whoop effect that's applied to the bass line is pretty cool. So maybe we can see if through those octaves, I will have a way of keeping that. And the last thing is I hear a few sort of synth counter melodies. See if I can find one of them. Yeah, you can hear the sort of synth melody that kind of fills the gap. That's sort of, that fills the gap as the vocals are holding. This is another thing that's quite common in produced music. Composition technique is that when the vocals aren't doing anything, you add just like a little bit of ear candy that just keeps the listener interested while the singer is holding a long note or there's nothing going on in the vocals. So you listen to that again. Yeah, I can hear that line pretty clearly. So you'll notice that the synth is actually playing a lot of counter melodies. Probably a counter line throughout the entire chorus, but it's like mixed a little lower, so you're not really paying attention to it because you're paying attention to the vocals. But then as soon as the vocals drop out, then that little sort of comes out at you because the vocals aren't doing anything, and they probably added a little bit of automation to make that a little bit louder as well. And that way that completes the sort of keeping your interest part of the song. And the best thing for me is that that means I will have a right hand free to play because my right hand is busy playing the vocal melody, and then I will also need to play that. So with all of those ideas, let's get actually playing. So something I might do as well is just sort of play things along, play things while listening to the track at the same time and see how they sound. So let's go back to the start of the chorus. So one of my first ideas I have is, actually let me think about this in my head a little bit first. So I'm missing the notes right now, but again, that keeps a little bit part of that. original. So that's a very basic idea that I'll start with because I think that captures, it's a good development of what I had before. It still has that sort of emulation of the pulse of the drum rhythm that I liked before. And then it also has, but because before it was pretty constrained to the bottom, to the low notes, and here I'm like expanding the range because I'll probably end up playing the melody an octave higher. That way, because I'm expanding the range of the left hand, that keeps it from sounding too boring. So if I can keep up with the song, let's see if I can play this actually at the same time. Okay, so that's pretty good, but I do lose one thing, which is that the drum beat is actually there's like the double bass hit. So with that, I might actually try a different idea first. What if I go full on instead of keeping? So the reason I did that is because I liked having the constant notes because that helps build out the sound. So in this song, there seems to be like a lot of pad type sounds that help to pad out the sound more. Well, that's what a pad is for, right? But because of the piano, I don't have that, which is why I wanted to play more notes. But maybe if I went with a more rhythmic approach, I might like that better. So something like... So... So in that way, I'm able to play the part quite accurately. So yeah, let's see how that sounds. Oh, I messed up. Okay, I'm playing the complete wrong chords. Let me get this right. Experimenting at this stage is quite normal. And then no chord there. So far I actually like how that sounds better than the first version. I'm not sure what you guys think. Maybe feel free to put your opinions in the chat, but I think the rhythmic aspect is more important than having lots and lots of notes. Because anyway, this original section already has a lot of notes as well. So that already has the part. So here I might try playing with the melody myself and see what that sounds like. I might have to go a bit slower though, because obviously I haven't practiced it yet. So what I'm liking a little bit there as well is I can have a very big leap at the beginning. So I can have a very very high chord and then I can drop down. So it actually has a bigger variation as a further development to my previous idea. I think something like I can have the initial jump be a bit bigger. And that allows me to keep the 7th of the chord in this E minor 7 and then put an open 5th, the CD as well. The GD inside the C chord, which I think sounds a lot better than just having a C major triad. So that does make the jump quite a bit more difficult, but not anything outside of my difficulty, not anything outside of my skill range, I think. With practice, I will be able to get that when I'm getting to the practicing and recording stage, but it's just right now I won't be able to play it at full speed, obviously. So with that, let's get that notated and see what it sounds like. So I will delete this note here. So just a quick recap. Let me play what I think it sounds like. It should be... So, okay, let's get that notated in. So it should be boom, boom, and then it will be a quaver, like so, oops, like so, and then, make sure you guys can see that. And then, I might not play the full triad there, I might have to cut some notes, but for now we'll leave that. Yep, and then that bar is the same as there. Yep. And then for now, I will just use the same complement throughout the entire thing, except for this bar where nothing is done. And I will delete the chord symbols now that I no longer need them. So let's just listen to MuseScore play at full speed. Obviously, as a computer, it's going to sound worse because it doesn't have any expressions. I'm currently not too bothered in terms of making my MuseScore sound good. But at least it will be able to play all the notes correctly, which is something I cannot do right now. So let's see. Okay, that sounds pretty good, but there is one awkward thing that I'm not entirely sure if I agree on, which is this part. Listen to how this goes at the beginning. Yeah, the chord change. So the melody lands anticipated on the beat. Boom! You can feel the anticipation because it goes doom doo doo doom doom like that. But the chord I've currently notated goes on the beat. So sometimes this sounds good and sometimes this doesn't. So as to give an illustrated example of what it might sound. So right now you can hear that it's the chord change is on the beat and the melody is anticipated, which is off sync, which sounds like this. But I could make it so that they land together instead. For example, see how by having the entire thing land on the and of 4 of the previous bar, it sounds more anticipated now. And for that, we need to go back and listen to the song because I can't remember which one it actually is. I actually don't think it lands with the... actually think it doesn't land anticipated. It sounds like it lands on the beat. But I do wonder if the bass line kind of sweeps up. I've been trying to learn your arrangement of Gorogora's Ash Again. How long did it take for you to finish arranging that piece? So, Ash Again was probably one of the most efficient. I don't know what the word is, but it's like it was the most arranging I've done in terms of like and compared to the amount of time that video took out. I basically started that arrangement since I basically started that arrangement as soon as the song came out. As soon as the song came out, and then I worked on it basically the entire day. That I had free time. Instead of studying for my final exams during that period, and worked on it all day. As soon as I finished working on it, I would go to practice it, I would go to refine it, continue arranging, continue practicing it, record it, and then upload it. So like those were a few very hectic days of my life because it was during the final exam period and I really should have been studying, but instead I was just so motivated. Twofold, like obviously I wanted to get a video out fast because the unfortunate reality is the faster you are at doing something, the more views you get. But on the other hand, I was in a bit of a demotivating spiral at that point because I wasn't really happy with what I was arranging at that time. I didn't really know what songs I wanted to arrange. But for that one, I was just so motivated. So I can't remember how many days it was, but you can do the math itself. We can just quickly look this up on YouTube. I have my iPad here. So my cover of Ash Again was released on 24th of April, and then Gura's the video on Gura's channel was released 19th of April. So 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So you can basically say 5 days. I spent the entire 5 days arranging, practicing, and recording. And 5 days is a pretty... I guess if you think about the number of hours I spent within those 5 days, it's about right. Normally a video takes me like 1.5 to 2 weeks to make from like 0 to completion. But that's because I normally sprinkle it in. You know, I don't have that many hours a day to dedicate to YouTube because I'm still a student. Now I'm working as well. But that one, I really did just pour 5 entire days of my life into it. And I'm very happy with how it turned out because it was, like I said in the last stream, it's one of my proudest arrangements. It's very complex, very intricate, but I think all the complexity pays off in a way that's great. If you have any more questions about that arrangement, we can actually go through it right now. I can like literally open up the MuseScore file and we can go through it. If that's something you're interested in, of course. But good luck with learning it. It's definitely quite unforgiving, especially in the last part. It took me many, many takes in order to get a recording I liked good of it. It was also one that I recorded like a little bit aspirationally. I would say that if I wasn't so stressed about time because I had final exams coming up, I would have practiced it a few more days in order to make the recording process a little bit less painful. Because then I would have to do less takes because I would just be able to execute it faster. But it's fine. We got through it in the end, and I'm as everyone has told me, it turned out great, and I'm very happy with how that turned out. So a very cheap thing. Anyway, back to this arrangement for now. If you have more questions about Ash Again, do feel free to ask for sure. Anyways, getting back to this arrangement here. So one cheap thing I'm going to do right now is select all here and press Alt 8 on my keyboard, which turns all these into octaves. Very cheesy, very cheap arranging trick, but classic way to do it is to play the melody in octaves to make it sound fuller. So I think the reason that sounds so weird to me in MuseScore is because it's articulating all the notes with the exact same velocity, obviously because it's a computer performing. But when I'm playing the left-hand accompaniment, I know that the main beats are... So because this like last bass note isn't as loud as the other ones, isn't as articulated, I don't hit it with the same velocity, it doesn't sound as weird when I play it. though I might just miss it entirely, actually. But for now, I think I'll leave that because I think that sounds fine. Right, let's move on to adding some. So now we have a basic accompaniment rhythm. We have the melody, and so we can start adding some little decorative details. So the first thing, as an example, because it was the first thing I heard, let's add that synth line, a counter melody I was talking about earlier. So let's go back and see if we can find it. Yeah, that's here. Oops. Not like that. So that goes. So for that, I will go into voice 2 on MuseScore by clicking there. And now, I'm not very good at this, or I haven't found a better method to do this, so I typically add a lot of dud notes before I can get to the one I want. So, So wait, let me think about how this sounds again. So yeah, there should be a quaver rest. Oops. And then this should be like that. And then we'll just delete the dud note there. And we'll invert these so the score sounds better. We'll put that there. So we'll see what that sounds like. Yep, so that sounds good to me. Obviously, I will voice that to be a lot quieter, and if I end up releasing the score, I will add dynamics to make sure that that part is played shorter, but that decoration part will be included there. El Paizo, when you release a piano sheet, what are the main differences it has from the original version? It's a very, very good question. So, for the sake of the stream, I am, notating absolutely everything I think about. But the reality is, I'm a very lazy person, and sometimes there are lots of ideas. It mainly comes down to laziness, basically. When I'm writing a score for myself, I will write lots of things that aren't perhaps notated in the clearest way and don't make a lot of sense. So for example, if we go back to this beginning section that I was talking about earlier, where I just put E minor 9 sweeping ascending arpeggios. If I was really lazy in the score when I'm recording, I might actually leave it at that, because I know when I write that note in my head, I know that the effect I want to create. I want to create an effect that sounds like. That kind of effect I want to create. And so that is left better improvised, actually, because notating all of that is really hard. So those kinds of sections, of which there are a few in Ashigun, which I could point out, those actually I improvise first, and then when I make the score, I actually transcribe them. So it's the other way around almost. I transcribe those parts based on what I play, and then those are come out. The other thing is just general neatness. So there's a big engraving aspect of the score that I end up going through at the end. I make sure that everything looks neat. I notate things for example, in Ashigan, it was very, very intricate in terms of how the middle voice is shared between the left and right hands. So I make sure the score is notated clearly so that you know exactly how to play that in terms of the left-right hand distribution. And then, I add things like dynamics, phrase markings, that I am usually not bothered to add if the score is just for myself, because I know which sections are supposed to be loud. Yeah, so it's just general sort of notation and engraving neatness and not fully realizing some improvised ideas. Those are the main differences. And that is why I don't tend to release scores for every cover I perform unless it is in demand, let's say, and I see quite a lot of like requests for it in the comments. Because that process that I just described, where I have to go back, transcribe all the parts, check to make sure it matches the video. If it doesn't, justify it, make sure everything's neat, check for mistakes, do QA, etc. That is a process that takes a significant amount of time. And it should take a significant amount of time because I need to be careful because, you know, if I'm taking your money for it, I want to provide something that's quality, right? So, yeah, those are the differences, and that's why I only, you know, at the moment at least, being a one-man job, I carefully select in terms of what I want to produce, like a able to be sold for money sort of quality level of sheet music. But here you can, with this stream, you can see what my dirty score looks like when drafting. So this chorus already sounds pretty good, actually, like this. It's very simple, but it could stand as the first chorus, as a typical, even though it's like, you know, not the most creative, most interesting thing in the world, it already has enough depth, actually. It has pretty standard depth in order to sound good, like the it actually already sounds pretty good, and I might just leave it at that actually, because I might want to reserve some of the extra effects for future choruses. But just for the sake of the stream, let's listen to this chorus one more time and see if there are any more small details I want to add. So my main candidate of where I might want to add details would be during these long held note sections where the right hand isn't doing anything. I'm trying to listen to see if there's any other instrumentation I could implement, but I'm not hearing anything particularly interesting. Okay, but there is an important thing I'm noticing, which is that this is actually wrong because I actually hear a step. Here, instead of just going straight from A to C, it's actually taking a step. So I'm not sure how I will do that because I do like the fact that this is based, but I might try that instead. See how that sounds. The problem with that is that it's a bit of a balance here. The problem with this is that this big jump doesn't really feel like a step anymore, and which is what the bass line actually does if you listen to the original. And that's like that step is what makes that part interesting. And then so because of that, I might drop this an octave by pressing that keyboard shortcut. So let's see. Ooh, there we go. I've just come up with a neat idea. I could supplement that with the left hand. The right hand that's not doing anything. Sounds a bit cheesy, but that could work. So with that, I think I'm ready. Oops, let's close that. Don't want you. So with that, I think I will like that, and then that low note doesn't quite work. Might add a fifth there. Like so. And then for the right hand, I'll add a part that helps it. Like that. So with that, again, we'll go into voice 3. So we'll place a dotted minimum, oops, I need to go into voice 2. Dotted minimum rest there. And then this is like so. And then that rest is unnecessary, so I will just delete it as well. I tend to not keep those secondary voice rests inside my score. Oops, inside my score, unless I don't have to. Sorry, I switched to the wrong stream part there. That's embarrassing. Lots of technical difficulties today. It's all right. Anyways, we'll keep going. So, anyways, what I was talking about before was this here. Sorry that I'm not very good at streaming. It's my first time working with OBS, having so many views at the same time on my screen. So sorry about that. Not sure where we left off, but the point is here, the thing I was discovering was that there's a bass line. There's a bass line part here, the da bum bum ABC that I wanted to keep. And so for that reason, I might bring that up there. I don't like the fact that that kind of leaves me with no chord, but I think the fact that I could do that could help. So how does that sound if MIDI score plays it? Yeah, so I like that a lot. Let's listen to how the original. Okay, and with that, I want to listen to if that also exists. Oh, hold on. Sorry guys, I think I have another keybind that switches my overlay that I'm not aware of. Let me go find that real quick so I stop doing that automatically. Hotkeys, hotkeys, hotkeys. Let's take a look. Switch to scene. Here we go. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. Alright, anyways, we'll keep going. So here we go. I've added this part now. So which kind of doubles the bass line, which is not really in the original, but I think it adds to the mood there. So I want to go back and listen because this figure repeats here as well, so I want to hear if that also exists at the first time. Oops, we're going way too early. What am I doing? Yep, so that also exists here. So I'm gonna copy and paste that there as well. Yep, and make that as well. Yep, so now that appears both times, which is good. Yeah. So for now, I think I will leave this section here. There are a few more details I can hear, but because I know this chorus repeats, I might actually reserve them for future choruses. There are some sort of synth extra lines I could add here, but I think for now I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this rhythm. I'm happy with the like sort of small little details I've added with the da 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 and these sort of like mini parts. Yeah, so with that, I think we'll move on to notate a little bit this next instrumental, and then it's getting late here. I might have to end the stream soon. So let's just quickly notate the melody for this instrumental part. So da 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 da. So that is a half note that is tied to that, and then which is tied to that. Oops. Which is tied to this. Yep, I think that sounds right to me. Which is tied to this, and then which is like this, and then this is probably extended at least 2 beats. Yep, that sounds right. And then we have the rhythm, and then do-do-do. Oops, not as a chord, individual notes. Then I think it's the same thing again. Ah! So that's interesting. So first, that is played as an octave now, the synth, but it starts overlapping with the vocals. So what is that? Let's see. Okay, so what I typically do during things like this is I will just notate the idea, even if it's impossible to play first, and then I will worry about what I can actually play later. So here I would ideally like to play this synth line in an octave while having the vocals as well, but obviously I can't play 2 different octaves with one hand at the same time. But that doesn't matter. What I will first do is I'll just notate all the information there, and then I will decide what I can cut in order for it to be practically possible to play. So let's listen again to what this vocal line is. So I can hear it starts syncopated. So let's get a rest, and then it's actually all quarter notes. I think it's that. Let me see. Yeah, and then it's oops. And I think it's this. Oops, hold on. Nope, I want this here. Tied to you. Tied to you, which is tied to you. And here it's getting a little bit messy because we need to flip these. But that might actually end up being there. Oh, hold on. Ah, that's why it sounded offset. It's because I had an extra note there. Yep, so that should be that, and then this should be this tied to that. Yeah. Oops. Do this like that. Let's hear what it sounds like. Yep, I think that sounds good. So already, when I'm thinking about how I might make this possible, I'm seeing that it's actually not too bad, because this, oops, make sure I deselect again. Make sure I deselect before playing anything. Turn off note input. There we go. So, because the... So I can essentially cut this. So here's what I'm thinking right now in order to make this possible. This is actually fine because I can hold the pedal from here. And then the only impossible, and then this note matches actually, so this is great. The only impossible interval is this one. So right now, because I haven't written the left hand yet, what I could do is I can find a way to make the left hand play this chord as part of this accompaniment. Or I will just cut this note and we will just have one less note because the top line already covers it. But for now, I think that's actually fine to leave as is. Okay, and then there's actually, the synth line actually continues. Ooh, there's some pretty finicky synth stuff there. So I think I'm gonna not do that for now, and I'm just going to finish up this section, this small section in terms of what I want to play for the left hand, and then I'll have to end this stream there as it's coming up to 11 o'clock where I am. So what do I want to play for the left hand here? Let's listen. Okay, so I'm tempted to reuse the same accompaniment as the other part because it like instrumentation wise, you can see it actually sounds very similar to the beginning anyway. If I go back to what the intro sounds like. Listen to that drum beat, it's basically the same here. But what I am noticing is that there does seem to be some sort of like synth that like plays a like sort of middle register note like a little bit more frequently. So maybe instead of the original melody accompaniment figure, which you see here, which has like a very heavy bass emphasis, I might go and do it sort of like more. I don't want to play completely repeated notes though, but like something like that. Actually, completely repeated notes might actually work. Anyways, it sounds alright to me, but let's listen to what the chords are. Yeah, so I'm tempted to keep that. It sounds a bit simple, but what I've realized is that sometimes the simple answer is, if the simple answer sounds good, it's the better one. So with that, I could just notate it directly, but I want to make sure I get these chords right. So let's listen to this again. Oh, there's a G there, is it? Oh, it might not be E minor actually. Oh, sorry, it's Yeah, so it's a little bit nasty, but let's get that notated in. So it's, oops, like so. And then this actually, if from what I listened to, actually could benefit with octaves below. So let's add, oops, an octave below that. And that's a little bit nasty in treble clef, so we'll do that. And then we will add the treble clef back here. Yeah, and then that same motif I will do here, but I will probably, what I'll do is, for everyone except the first one, which I'll use for the bass, I will shift up an octave. Wait, hold on, I need to check if the chord is even the same. Let me listen to that again. A, G, C. Yeah, I think that's fine. And what you'll notice here is that this note is actually the same as this one. So, hold on, how will this sound? So what I might actually do here is, instead of playing the normal rhythm here, I will have it play this note instead. That one. So you can see here the left hand will take over what the right hand cannot play, and if anything, this might actually free up the right hand to play higher in the higher register. Yeah, and then that goes into a later section, which is quite different. So with that, I think I'm going to have to end the stream there. So in terms of progress we made today, maybe not too much, but we did notate one full chorus, basically to completion, and a little bit of this instrumental, and I also talked a little bit about the arranging process in general. So yeah, I'm not sure who's still here in chat, but thank you very much for sticking with me to the very end, and I hope you found this helpful, and I answered, and I hope this was useful to getting a little bit more into my sort of process of how I make videos. If you think this is interesting, then make sure to give the stream a like, and maybe I will make a community post as well to ask about if more people would be interested, and maybe if I schedule one of these streams more regularly, more frequently, at a set time, then people will know that this is the time to show up if they want to get questions on arranging. I by no means want to claim that I am an expert at arranging. All I have done is I have grown up playing a lot of piano as a kid. I went through a lot of classical musical training, and these skills are just skills that I self-learned myself. I didn't go to any sort of music composition school of that nature. So I do not claim to be an expert in that. My music theory terminology is not 100%. So I still have lots to learn, but I still hope that I'm able to offer something a little bit helpful for you guys. So with that, I'm going to be ending the stream just about there. But just before we go, maybe I'll play just one song to close out the stream as like a little performance. So I'm not sure if Koji is still in the stream. Koji, are you there? If you're there, then now's your time to type in the chat. But if not, is there any requests of what some of you guys want to hear before we end the stream? If not, then I'm just going to pick something myself and play that to end the stream. Because actually, I do have a cover coming out in just 1 hour in midnight my time that if you're a fan of Ash Again cover, I know El Pilza, if you're still in the stream, if you're a fan of that, I think you might be a fan of this next cover as well. But I won't play that right now. You will have to wait 1 hour to see what that video is. Yep, so last chance for song requests. If otherwise, I will just pick something to play, and then we will end the stream there. So what should we play? Let's take a look. What have I not played recently that could be fun to play? Not too sure actually. Well, I guess since this is an Ado stream, I will close out with another Ado song. The other Ado song, of course, being the only other one I covered. I haven't played this in a while, so let's see if I even know how to play it. But yeah, here we go. So this will be the last performance before we go. Thank you for listening. That was first Shoka by Ado, and then followed by Elpiza's song request, which is Kaiju by Synchronization, which is the opening to Orb, All the Movements of the Earth. One of my recent favorites anime. I didn't watch it when it was airing, but I caught it afterwards, and it was really, really good. As you can tell by that arrangement, I did have it ready because I was considering doing a cover for by some point, but I never finished it. No promises, maybe eventually one will come out. But it's another one of those with really intricate instrumentals that if I wanted to do, then I will get right. But anyways, with that marks the official end of our live stream today. Thank you so much for coming out with us to hang out. And be sure to check out my new cover of a very, very cool song that is also a VTuber song, sneak peek. If you're here, you heard it here first, it's a VTuber song. Make sure you get those notifications on. In 45 minutes, it will be dropping. If you're a fan of Ash again and the arrangement style of that, I think you will also really like this one. I had lots of fun arranging. But anyways, with that, I will see you guys in the next stream, next video, whenever that is. Bye-bye. Have a nice evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you are. Goodbye, guys. Bye-bye.